What's up, everyone? This is episode number 6 of the Psycheward podcast. I've been gone for a minute. I took a little 10-day break after my birthday, celebrate, enjoying growing old, all that jazz. But today I'm going to talk about a couple things, but I want to start it off with, you ever watch the Fresh in Prison shows? Where they document the lives of prisoners and everything over and over and over again. You see like so many people in there for minor non-violent drug offenses, and you start to wonder where this all come from. Well, I'm going to tell you where it all came from. Harry J. motherfucking Anslinger and William Randolph Hearst. Now, a lot of people have heard me probably post about this and talk about it often, that the war on drugs was started by literal racists. But on top of that, it was also solely just for the money. Because Harry J. Anslinger first came into, I don't want to say fruition. He first came in a, governing body. He first came in during the end of alcohol prohibition, which we all know ended terribly. We've seen a lot of moonshiner fucking movies on it, and they're actually pretty good. I love them. But in modern day, we have drugs. We have the prohibition against drugs thanks to Harry J. Anslinger. But the main thing that he did was, when he first came in, he was such a racist that his campaign started with basically trying to relate marijuana to the deviancy behind black people. He released several articles through the help of William Randolph Hearst, of course, who was also known to be a racist conspirator. Not even known, he was a racist conspirator. And his news outlet constantly aggravatingly published dozens of articles that were solely race-baited to stir up confusion. But some of those articles featured stuff with Harry Anslinger saying stuff like colored students at the University of Michigan partied with white female students smoking marijuana, get their sympathy from racial stories of persecution, and as the result is pregnancy. So weed made a white girl get sympathetic towards the black cause, I guess, and she got pregnant. It gives you a good feel of how this dude really thinks. Reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. And this is the man that literally founded the campaign for all of this. And there's a lot of reasons behind it other than just his racism. There was also the hemp industry was booming. I believe it was in the early 1920s. The hemp industry started literally taking off because even Henry Ford he started making car parts out of hemp. It was better than steel to put on a car. And then constantly, over and over again, you see the same thing that happened with alcohol prohibition. They didn't have it. They needed that money. They had gotten so used to, and there was an entire bureau dedicated to stopping people from using drugs. And those drugs were alcohol at the time, but stopping people. So, in order to, I'm not sure, this could be a conspiracy theory. I'm not going to let you guys think that I'm out here spitting straight facts on it, but I'm telling you what I know and what constant articles have been saying is that he also launched his campaign in order to disenfranchise hemp. Because in a lot of his things, he relates hemp towards the cause of it. When a lot of people, the word for marijuana was 100% literally Mexican slang for wild tobacco. And they changed it and they propagandized it and they just took it and blew it out of complete fucking proportions. But a lot of people just constantly see this going on. We see it going on today. You get pulled over with a gram, you're black, you're doing time unless that officer's nice to you. And I will say I've probably been on the receiving end of some of those, and as we all probably have. But it's just wild that you can watch TV and on California, fucking Susie Lynn is doing weed yoga, making millions. But over here in Mississippi, Sean gets locked up for 6 months because he just had a blunt on him and they charged him with paraphernalia. Speaking of which, paraphernalia charges are bullshit. They can only charge you criminally for a certain amount of weed in Mississippi. So look into that. Or don't, like I said, don't go out here trying to challenge people, y'all. Y'all need to take the info you receive and then regurgitate it or respond to it as best you see for your life. But we've all learned a lot of things that come from prohibition and drugs. One thing is it makes them a hell of a lot more fucking potent. Obviously, things are illegal. So when things are illegal, you have to maximize your bang for the buck. You have to literally increase your yield. So what I'm saying when I say that is you have to make what you're selling hit better. We saw in Prohibition for alcohol that's when hard liquor emerged because people wanted to get drunker off of less. Like you going into the store, imagine going into the store and you just want, you want like a little light beer, but everything on the shelves is nothing but hard liquor. So if you drink, you have to get drunk. That's one of the things that comes from prohibition, and we see that today. When it comes to weed, there's a lot of other factors, such as, obviously people that smoke weed, their tolerances get higher and they want more dope shit to smoke. But on the flip side of that, there's a demand for it. And prohibition just does not stop demand. Demand is not affected by arrest. It's just not. Gang violence is not affected by you locking somebody up for just smoking a joint. All that does is perpetuate the cycle of it. And where I really go to this is just from the war on drugs just being started by racism. We see the effects still echoing in today. It's really looking like marijuana might start to make moves to be legalized all around the world, but here's hoping. But there's this mass incarceration. Like, America has 25% of the world's prison population in prison, and a good over 30% of those people are black. It doesn't make sense when we're only 13% of the population. But when you look at it, they like to blame drugs. They like to say marijuana is a gateway drug, and it's not. The reason is that somebody could go against marijuana that I would agree with, or they could say potency, because some weed is quite strong. Some people might get their hands on it and they might not know how to deal with it because marijuana does cause paranoia. It just does. This is how it goes, y'all. Like, we all know it. We just do. But that's just another side effect of weed becoming popularized, in my opinion, because you see they start to breed out the CBD and they start to breed heavier dosages of THC. While CBD is literally it counteracts psychoactiveness. So basically, if you're prone to have psychoactive breakdowns and you take CBD, it will alleviate those symptoms. While THC is in studies shown, I'm not gonna lie here, I'm not gonna golden paint it. It is shown to definitely, in cases where people are prone to I just said the word, but in cases where people are basically prone to wig out on weed, that's when it comes into play. And that's still only a small percentage of the population. It really is. It's just an incredibly small percentage. And we see across the world in places like Swiss legalized heroin. You want to know why? Because they had a heroin epidemic and they tried everything. They tried the shaming, they tried the locking people up, and it only made it worse. And when they started to put up clinics and actually medicate people, help them, try and, uplift them, over 70% of all the addicts that they continue to supply the legal heroin with dropped. Most people don't even stay on the program anymore. And that leads me to what else I want to talk about today. We'll roll back to the war on drugs into a different episode because I want to have a guest on to just get you guys the impact of that story. But I want to talk about like the individual level, and that's when it really plays. That's when it really comes into play when it comes to drugs. So, as someone who's been affected by drug addicts in his life, as I know a lot of us probably have, we all know it's not easy. We get mad at those people because we feel they're not trying. We get mad at those people because we feel like they don't care. But I realized not very long ago at all, that they're also still a person. They're also still an individual that's going through something that has them attached to it. They're dealing with some type of trauma. And if you do not understand that, the way is not to berate them. The way is to encourage them and do what you can. But it all still comes down to an individual level, as all things in life do, y'all. All of them. Everything comes down to an individual level. What you are willing to do when no one else is looking and there is no admiration coming for you. What you are willing to do when it's just you. And that's what everyone needs to work on. When you're sitting alone and you're thinking of grabbing that next cookie, nah, bro, just put it down. You know you don't need it. We all know you don't need it. I'm guilty of that, though. Even even now. For some of the viewers who don't know me in person, I used about a year and a half ago. I give it about 2 years. 2017, I weighed about 250 pounds. Currently, I weigh about 172, and it was through a massive change in not only perspective but also the way I lived my life. Also, I'm not around my mom anymore, so I'm not getting any of that good old cooking. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But anyway, I went through a perspective shift. I started to see my actions and that they actually had consequences. I started to see that on the grand scale of things, everybody's actions have consequences. And what you put out into the world definitely comes back to you, because you will act and receive in the ways that are dealt upon you. So if you go upon life, you're just let's just say disheartening. You're a disheartening person, disloyal person. You'll do whatever it takes to keep you at 100. You're gonna attract people that are just like that. You're going to put yourself in situations mentally full of people just like that, unless you're preying on people, and you'll continue to perpetuate the cycles. Because once you do somebody bad, then it comes down to their choice and their individual perspective of how they plan to deal with that. Some people might just replicate what you did and inflict that pain upon others, and you've just made the world a worse place. So I try to preach messages of not only self-help, but also group help. To know what your actions and words can do and how they affect other people and gauge those. And that's why we see a lot of stuff in today's political climate with political correctness. Double PC right there. Yeah. But the main thing with political correctness is it's not a new thing. The news was shouting against political correctness in, I think it was the 70s or 80s, whenever black students started to first come into universities and were basically arguing for their spaces, because they were coming into predominantly white areas, and we all know how that goes. And they were arguing the exact same agenda now. Political correctness. Politicians used it constantly. And yet we think it's a new thing. It's not, you guys. It's just another divisive measure that they've put out here to just limit us and keep us off the general track of being together. Like all these people on the Area 51, over 400,000 people are signed up for this Area 51 shit. Shout outs to y'all if y'all actually go there and free some aliens or actually storm that hoe. They either gonna kill all of you or somebody getting in and proving something. Because if they decide to kill people, which we all know probably won't happen. If they do decide to kill people, they're probably doing it for a very good reason other than just trespassing. But that is trespassing. You know, they had the shoot on sign site. Oh, I said shoot on sign site. Jesus. Shoot on sight sign. But people can band together for stuff like that and just show constant support for memes and everything, but there are still children locked up at the border. There are still homeless veterans just pouring our streets. And there's no one spreading awareness for it. There's no one talking about it. They're talking about Area 51 meme. Well, I will say I'm pretty sure they got aliens in there, bro. I'm not even. They got aliens. They definitely have aliens in there. But we'll talk about that later. But constantly, I'm going to always preach a message that everyone should try and become more self-aware and self-awake. Because if you can fix the problems in yourself, you can fix anything. That's one of the rare things that we as humans have the ability to do. We can look around at our general environment and change it rapidly. You can think of something in your head, envision it, and then make everything you thought in your head piece together just like that. And that's magical. And everyone has the power to do that in some way. But we're all subject to our choices. And I never try to judge anyone for their choices, even if it is wrong, because that's just another perspective, that's just another outlook on life. That's just somebody else that made a decision in a certain time, and that's how they had to deal with it. And you can very well be in that situation one day. But from the war on drugs to general self-help to me sitting here alone talking to you guys for episode 6, I think I like how I came in with this one. Because it'll be just like the first one. This would be not even technical. This would be season 2 of the Psycheward podcast. And we're actually doing great. And I want to just pause the general talking for right now and just say thank you guys as an audience. You all have helped me tremendously. I see people from so many different states: California, Tennessee, Arkansas, my own Mississippi, Oregon, Wisconsin's not a state, is it? Well, I saw a couple in North Dakota, saw one in Arizona. So there's just more and more people discovering and just listening and giving me feedback, and so many people are giving me feedback, and it is really helping me. I love you guys for this. And I started off with this. I'm 6 episodes in. That's not a lot, but I'm definitely going to start rolling them out more now, because we're going to, like I said on previous episodes, we're going into season 2, so we're going to start kicking them out. I'm going to start trying to get you guys at minimum at least 1 episode a week, if not more. But it's always important, and I'm going to keep stressing this, that you focus on your individual strengths and perspectives. Because we all, I'm going to keep going back to this. We all know an addict. We all see someone struggling. But you could very well just be that person. You could very well one day be subject to one of your vices that you have no way to get out of. And people on the outside looking in will just look at you and say, look at that poor bastard. Can't even just stop, fucking druggy. And you don't even know what that drug could be. And you'll just end up there and you'll be judging people. You'll look at people for minor differences and just constantly go over them. Why? When we're all really in this together as a country. We're all really in this together as a people. But there are a lot of social barriers and social cultural things that just kind of fuck us. And that's where I want to talk about, like, destigmatization. Like, that is what we need to do. We need to destigmatize a lot of things. Substances, how we treat people on substances, how we treat people addicted to substances. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, and I've learned this pretty fast in life, you going to meet a lot of people that are probably on coke. I guarantee you've met someone that does coke. The likelihood that you have not met someone that does coke is incredibly low. And if you think that is not low, I dare you to Google challenge me. You might end up being right, but a lot of people do coke. But they do it, they're functioning. There's a lot of functioning drug addicts out here, and you never know. They keep it under wraps, they keep it out of the public eye, they keep it unique to themselves. And no one ever does anything about it. Guess why? Because you never find out. You never find out about the old boys, the construction workers that work the typical 5 to 9. No. Let me quit exaggerating. The typical 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. out here in the hot, warm sun, and they get off work and they want to smoke them a couple of blunts. You don't stigmatize those people. You don't stigmatize them, so why stigmatize the drug dealers that's just selling weed? Why stigmatize people when you don't know them? That leads to the don't judge a book by its cover. But in some situations, I'm not being absolute here. There obviously are times where you do need to judge situations with a book with that cover flat in front of you. Sometimes that's a red motherfucking flag and you need to dip. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm guilty in a lot of those situations where I've literally sat in and I'm just like, man, these red flags are out here. I was like, well, but what if I'm just looking through red glasses? I'm probably looking through red glasses because I look at the world very suspiciously in general. Like, everywhere I go, I'm always looking around for something or someone to pop off. I'm always watching what I say to people. It kind of leads to a lot of stuff. Like, if you've ever worked at a job with me and I don't know you, I'm incredibly quiet. I'm so quiet that you probably think I was a serial killer. But it's not. It's because I don't know what to start the conversation with. But over time, I get to know people. I get to get a general feel for them. They get a general feel for me. I'm more of a responder, not more of an initiator. When someone starts a conversation with me, you might not be able to get me to stop depending on what is on. And I cut people off a lot of times. But who doesn't love an old quirky eggplant like myself? Speaking of which, shout out to Eggplant. I can't wait to have you on the podcast, man. But yeah, folks, generally, I just want everyone to know that this season is really going to be picking up. It's really going to be exploding because I'm loving it. I'm loving the feedback from you guys. I'm loving people telling me things that I've said on the podcast that actually didn't line up with other things, and I'm actually getting more educated on this. More educated at how to do this, more educated at how to work my equipment, more educated at how to see the world. And I love it. I love it 100%. I love progress. And everyone out there should just continue to seek progress. Continue to seek strive. Continue to strive and seek change. And make sure it's always change for the better. Make sure it's change for you, because what works for other people won't always work for you. We are all subject to our vices. We are all subject to what we consider maybe our sins or our petty insecurities. But it's at the end of the day realizing that you have those and pushing through them that really will help you in the long run. And yeah, guys, that's about it. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 6 of the Psycheward podcast. And I love you guys, and I really hope that you tune in for the explosive season that we have ahead. See you later.